Hi, Kyle Grossmiller again, and welcome to part two of using Azure functions to automate Cloud Block Store capacity expansions on Azure. So to get started, if you remember in part one, we had just set up the monitoring apparatus. And just as a quick review, we're just going to confirm that we've got an array and a capacity threshold added to that monitor resource group. So if we look here, we can see there's our array, and then the capacity threshold is set to 60. You can set that number to whatever you want on a per array basis, by the way, if you add subsequent arrays. To fill up this array, which you just saw was at 50%, we've got two Windows virtual machines. They're sitting on that VMFS data store inside of Azure VMware Solution. And as we can see, that's mapped to this Cloud Block Store instance. Hopping into this virtual machine, we're just going to use Disk SPD, which is a free tool from Microsoft. Going to create a couple of 3 terabyte DAT files, and then we're just going to generate random write IO against those DAT files to fill up this array above 60%. In addition to that, I'm also downloading a Pure Storage snapshot, a volume snapshot off of Azure Blob Storage on that same Cloud Block Store array, just to speed up filling the array up a little bit here. So we'll do 100% writes. We'll do 2,048 seconds per run on each virtual machine. And now that I've kicked this off, if we go back to the GUI on Cloud Block Store, we should start to see some activity take off. Okay, so these are both running. Going back to the dashboard on the array. Yep, so we can see we're pushing some writes against this instance. I'll pause it and we'll wait for this thing to fill up. Oh, and before I pause it, before I forget, if we log into CBS itself as pure user, if you run this command, you can see the requested capacity, the current capacity, and the status on the array. We can see this has been running for a little bit. We'll pause it and we'll come back when we hit that 60% threshold, which we just did. So we're now at 64%. This disk SPD script still running, just finished on, I believe, both virtual machines. Yep, so it's done on both VMs, so that part's done. We'll now take a look at our Azure monitoring function and see what a triggered event looks like. By default, the Azure monitor function for capacity expansion queries every 30 minutes. That's what we have this set to. You can change that query frequency down to 10 minutes, up to an hour if you want. But if we look at this monitor function here, we can see the invocation traces. Here's an example of one where we looked at the array. It was below the 60% threshold. This ran about basically right at the start when I started recording. And what we'll do is we'll pause and we'll come back to this capacity monitor trigger and look at it again in about 15, 20 minutes here and see it hopefully kick off. So we're back. Let's scroll down, look at it, look for that invocation trace, look for it to have kicked off. Here we can see it did kick off. So now it's going to kick off the capacity expansion on the array. By the way, you can do this manually on Cloud Block Store via this same CLI pure array script here. But again, we're just showing this here because you can automate it by setting this threshold. See, OneDrive has already been updated successfully. We're at 70% full. It does take an hour to 2 hours to fully upgrade the array because we iterate through each of the 14 managed disks attached to CBS to add capacity. Worth noting, of course, is that as you add a capacity to this array, you are going to add against your Azure infrastructure spend. So just something to be aware of. But for customers who want to take the guesswork out of adding capacity to an array, this is a really easy way to do it. As we skip ahead, we see we're up to 10, 12 drives out of 14 updated. And in just a second here, I'll pause it and we'll go up all the way to 14 drives successfully updated. If I do it again, we're up to 13. I think I paused it one more time. And then if I run this one final time, we can see that we're idle, but our current capacity has moved up to the next capacity point. If we go back to the Pure Storage GUI, we can see we're now at 36 overall capacity, and our raw capacity has gone from 2.25 to 4.65 terabytes. So yeah, that's how it all works. Again, super cool stuff. Appreciate you watching, and please stay tuned for the next one.